The Amherst Township Trustees called to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call, David.
Roll call. Abraham?
Here.
Lynch?
Here.
Uhrig? Present. Kish? Absent.
And Chris had told us ahead of time she would not be here this evening, so we've known that. So David's going to be taking minutes, so we're going to have to give him a lot of leeway here since he's got to write it longhand. When you get a minute, David, if you can read the minutes of the May 9th meeting.
Yes. Who else, Chris? How do you spell your last name? N-I-E or N?
N-I-E.
N-I-E. All right.
You got Eddie down too.
And then, Eddie, what's your last name? No, next to Kevin. And you
My
are-
first name ain't Eddie.
Oh, it's not Eddie?
It's on the sign-in sheet.
Oh, okay, okay.
So I don't know who that is.
That's not Eddie. Well, it's not Eddie. Who is Eddie? I said Eddie. They said Eddie, and I presumed it was the other person in the room. Sorry. My apologies.
You're fine.
All right. Reading of the minutes of the May 9th, 2023 regular meeting of the Amherst Township Trustees. Meeting called to order at 7 p.m. by Lynch. Pledge to the flag. Roll call. Lynch, Uhrig, Kish present. Abraham absent. Also in attendance, Case March, G. Lynch, L. Ashley, D. Moore. Motion 5-123 made by Uhrig, second by Lynch. Move to approve the April 25th, 2023 regular meeting minutes as corrected. Roll call, all ayes. Motion 5-223, motion by Lynch, second by Uhrig. Move to approve the financial reports and payment items on the payment listing with reservation. Roll call, all ayes. 5-323, motion by Lynch, second by Uhrig. Amend permanent annual appropriation measure for 2023 per Ohio Revised Code Section 5705.38 and 5705.40 to allow additional road repair. Roll call, all ayes. Trustee Lynch welcomed everyone and asked if there were any items for discussion. D. Moore asked for an upgrade on the Batten House ditch project. Mr. Moore indicated he has video showing Batten House overflowing its banks in January 2023, including the 3-foot additional fill Mr. Moore added along the bank on his property. Trustee Lynch informed Mr. Moore that the Lorain County Stormwater District is waiting for 2 additional property easements before project bids can be solicited. Trustee Lynch requested Mr. Moore email the January 2023 video to Lorain County Stormwater Management District Manager Don Romanchik and Trustee Lynch. Reports ambulance service, life care looking at contracts with communities, City of Amherst, City of South Amherst, and Amherst Township. Meeting scheduled on June 15th, 2023 at 6 p.m. at the Amherst Fire Department. Zoning, Trustee Lynch presented a determination from the prosecutor's office regarding site plan review and variance hearings and new businesses. Under the site plan review and variance, Sam asked to increase fees or require a deposit so that fees cover architect and fire inspector. Under new business, Sam asked for a registration fee to cover business tracking and CO and fire inspector requirement costs. It was determined that both are proper and lawful and approved per the prosecutor's office. Ron Friend turned in his resignation from the Zoning Board of Appeals. Roads, parks, and cemeteries, full-time mowing, currently filling potholes and cleaning out catch basins. Trustee Lynch mentions packets contained a copy of the mini grant MOUs for the Hidden Valley Catch Basin Repair Project and the Hidden Valley Storm Sewer Main Replacement Project. Senior Services, Township Administrator Ashley reported that KLA Consulting, the insurance consultant through Ortama, met with myself and Road Superintendent Kevin Smart and was very pleased with our record keeping. She suggested we keep a copy of the driver's license and a copy of the insurance coverage for employees who drive their own vehicles for township business. She also asked that we add a sentence on the Township Park Pavilion reservation documents indicating the township is not responsible for injuries. Looking at several other grants to see if we qualify. We will be attending a Medicare refresher. Phase 2, Stormwater Advisory Committee. Next meeting will be Thursday, May 18th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. Trustee Lynch is hoping that they decide on the community grants. They had extended the deadline to submit, and he's interested in seeing the grants submitted after the original deadline. Complaints are being handled by the designated individual. Trustee Lynch noted that packets contain the proposed schedule for the Solid Waste and Recycling Consortium bid process for the next 5-year contract period for curbside waste and recycled material collection. Any transition to a curbside solid waste and recycling collection provider will begin around April 2024. Trustee Uhrig reported that the Solid Waste Policy Committee met today and provided a timeline for the solid waste plan update. The next regularly scheduled meeting will be Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023 at 7 p.m. at the Amherst Township Hall. Motion 5-4 by Lynch, second by Uhrig, adjourn at 7:48 p.m. Roll call, all ayes.
Are there any corrections or changes to the May 9th meeting minutes? Not, then I'll make a motion to approve as read.
So move, or you second?
You're ready, take roll call then, David.
Roll call, Lynch,
Yes.
Uhrig, yes. Abraham,
Abstain.
I'll let you prompt us on financials there, David, credit cards.
the fiscal officer could not be with us tonight, so she has provided us with the financial information. We have before us the financial reports and the warrants for payment, the bills.
And it's been a light 2 weeks here, David, with the total expenditures of $8,153.72, and I don't see anything out of line there. And there was, looking at the appropriations, there were no expenditures from the remaining ARPA funds, what Chris indicated after she does payroll. She'll be drawing that out. Since she's doing payroll this Friday, we might see the drawdown of those funds at the next meeting. So that being the case, I'm going to make a motion.
Well, why don't we go to the credit cards first? Credit card account.
She's got it in that order because
Yes.
we've got it in reverse order on our agenda.
We do.
Yeah, but we can do it in that order.
We can do the
if you
credit
want.
cards. You also have the credit card, well, that is in the financials.
Yeah, and Chris does have the credit card report here indicating that receipts are available for all the expenditures. So that being the case, I'm going to make a motion that the credit card account transaction detail has been reviewed per policy and the card statement is accepted as presented, subject to investigation.
I will second. Roll call. Lynch,
Yes.
Uhrig, yes. Abraham
Abstain.
And the number on that, David?
is 5623.
ready for the financials.
All right. Now we move on to the financials.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the financial report and the payment of the items on the payment listing, which I'm just going to stop there and say with reservation. There were no ARPA expenditures.
I will second. Is there any discussion on that, further discussion? If there's no discussion on the bills, roll call. Lynch?
Yes.
Euring, yes. Abraham?
Yes.
Okay, David, I do have two items on the financials. One, I'm hoping it was here. Denny, did you see there should have been a form here for you on membership to the Lorraine County Township Association and OTA?
I didn't see it.
That's the bank signature card. Denny signed that.
Okay, never mind. I thought that might have been.
Okay. Well, in any case, Denny, we'll have to see if it's in Chris's office. She had indicated she'd have it here at the desk, but it came up at the last Lorraine County Township Association. I had Mark Cunningham asked about you, so did Dick Heidecker. They want to make sure I let you know they were asking about you and wishing you well. But Mark is responsible, since he's the secretary of the association, of collecting dues. And since he's got a trip to Ireland, being a strong Irish person, he wanted to make sure he got, one way or the other if you were joining, because he wants to get those in by May. Otherwise, he says the township's on their own.
Do I have to write a check?
No. All you have to do is sign the form and then indicate, which I think you do. You get the newsletter by email. It just saves money and makes it easier for him, but he always asks for the authorization. So that's the form I'm talking about.
Okay.
Chris would then issue the check, which we would sign on Friday, because he will have some payroll checks for us to sign there. And then I'm going to cover next. We received just today, she received notice on the OTARMA annual liability renewal, and she was asking that we take care of that because it's due in June, and just the way the meetings fall, the way she has to do it, she doesn't want to be late on the payment. So all it is, if you're going to fill it out, we'll have to see. It's probably in her office since it's not out here at the desk.
Okay.
And we'll just make sure we have you sign that before you leave.
All righty.
Okay? And then, David, I do have one other item. Chris just received this today, so I'll wait till you catch up and tell me when you're ready. Should have had Chris leave her laptop. Ready?
Go ahead.
Okay, and there is a copy in your packet here on this too, David, with the email that Chris received today from OTARMA. There is an invoice for our annual liability coverage. This actually covers a period beginning in the middle of June from 2023 through 2024 with the invoice amount for $26,710. And the only question that Chris had is if we wanted to keep the same liability coverage, which we had increased 2 years ago, if you recall. So do we want to increase it or keep it the same? Essentially, the cost is for each additional $1 million in liability coverage would be another $844. Incrementally, that's low if you look at it as to what protection you get for that, because with that 26,710 is essentially $6 million, which is over $4,000, per million. But, you've got that initial large amount, and each increment going up is $844 per million. So that's the question she has. Do we want to leave it the same as we'd increased it 2 years ago so she knows how much to make the check for, and then we have to also authorize the payment? So I'll leave that open if you guys want it the same, or do you want to increase it?
At this time, I don't see a pressing need for increasing the limit. Not that
Okay.
we don't want to revisit that in the future, if we want to.
Right, we
But
get it.
as of this date, as of right now, for the sake of the hour, to get back to Otarma, I would say we'll stay with what we have. That's my thought right now.
And I pretty much agree. I don't know any of that, because we just
No,
increased
I
it 2
don't.
years ago.
I don't.
Okay, with that then, David, I'm just going to make a motion authorizing the fiscal officer to pay the 2023-2024 liability coverage to Otarma in the amount of $26,710.
Hold on.
This is all in your packet.
And the motion, do you have a prepared resolution?
No,
You're just saying to authorize,
I just received, she had forwarded the email to me and asked if we could take care of it tonight. Again, her logic is because it's due in the middle of June. But, you know, when we have that first meeting in June and the time it takes her to process, they wouldn't receive it in time. Why they send something on May 23rd and expect payment before June 12th, it's kind of like our
right,
payment.
payment of Otarma invoice.
Liability coverage in the amount of the whatever the number is there, 26,710, I believe.
Now, is this for all our coverage or just the liability?
So the invoice I have right there is that's all we receive from them. If you look at the other side, you'll see.
That's all our Otarma?
Yes,
Okay.
for the whole anniversary.
I'm just gonna say Otarma coverage. Otarma invoice for coverage for 2023, 2024 anniversary. From the date. Okay, I will second. Second that?
Yeah. No, I
I
made the
did.
motion, you seconded.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought. Okay, motion made and second. Any further discussion on that? Roll call. Lynch?
Yes.
Euring, yes. Abraham?
Yes.
Okay.
All set?
Next item, all set. Is this yours?
Yeah.
Take that back.
All right, at this time, I'd like to welcome everyone in attendance. If anyone has anything to bring before the trustees, please raise your hand. Yes, sir?
I got a complaint form here, but I didn't turn it in because the meeting is today, so I figured I could make it up
Okay,
here.
that's fine.
I live at 334 Broadway Street. It's the township. The neighbor directly next to me hasn't mowed his lawn in over a year. He owns the back 2 lots on Taylor. Somebody from the township put a sign up there over a year ago. It's kind of like fell out. Still hasn't been mowed. Now, it's a health concern now with all the raccoons and the mice and everything living underneath the shed and all throughout coming over to my property now.
I wonder if this one, we lost it in the, I wonder if we might have lost it in the transition between zoning inspectors. Did you see a sign notice that the trustees had signed as far as?
It's been over a year. It fell apart and it's laying, there's no sign there anymore because of the weather. That's on the Taylor Street. Now, I don't have an address because it's 2 open lots. Actually, there's 3 open lots there with no addresses. But it is between 323 and 343. There's 3 open lots. The grass is over 4 foot tall. 340, the backyard's over 3 foot tall still.
Okay.
He's had a sign up there. He had a sign up there last year in the front on Broadway Street. It mysteriously come up missing and nobody mowed the lawn now.
Well, if you've got the complaint there, our zoning
Yeah.
inspector, Sam D'Ambrosio, is not here
I
today.
figured
And
that's
the reason I
convenient.
ask if there's a signed document also from the trustees is there is a process we have to follow in the Ohio Revised Code that gives certain dates, but we can get the process started. Essentially, the trustees have to pass a motion, and give them time. We got to post it, which this sign may have posted it. That gives the property owner a chance to get it done. If they don't, we then order the mowing and we put a lien for that cost
I understand.
on their property. So we'll have to check into that. That's all I can guess. If there's still a notice left there, I could be mistaken, but we might have lost the transition since we've changed zoning inspectors in the past year, because a zoning inspector then follows up with that and helps coordinate getting someone out there to mow it, and also working with the fiscal officer to get the lien put on the property, so that when they pay their property taxes, assuming they're paying it, we get reimbursed for the cost of the mowing. And typically something like this, we'll subcontract it. The township's not in the mowing business of other people's property, especially when you never know what the condition of the property is that can damage our equipment or cause other problems. So the preference is get someone else to mow it. That also gives us an easier identifiable invoice as far as what the cost was. So, but we'll definitely get that started, and I appreciate you filling out the complaint form. That helps. That gives us a record to follow through with that.
All right, yeah, somebody the township had a sign up in the front on Broadway and on Taylor last year. So I know there was one there, nothing was ever done.
Yeah, that would have been our zoning inspector, and
Okay.
that's what I'm explaining.
Yeah, I get it.
Change zoning inspectors, so it's possible as we transition to a different
Correct.
employee, that one could have fallen between the cracks. So it's good you brought it forward again. Okay?
Yep,
And we'll have Sam, who's not here tonight, check it out. And if he finds out that the motion's already in place, he can just go ahead and arrange to get that thing mowed. Okay? And you've got your contact information on there, so he
Correct.
can reach you if he needs you. Okay, good. All right, great. Anything else?
I didn't fill one out, but this has been since the sewer system has been bad. There's a line from Broadway over to 58 that has not been fixed. Every time it rains real heavy, everything back floods in. It's been power flushed from when John was in the road guy until who knows when. Nothing's been done.
We're talking the storm sewer.
Correct.
Okay. Did you want to address that, Kevin?
Yeah, that was, last year we had that, all worked out where I needed to get signed easements. And the property owner, would not sign the easement for temporary. And also the, front property, that he has for sale. Tried to even actually have lawyers, tried to contact that property owner, and wasn't able to, get in contact with that property owner. But we were actually planning on replacing that whole tile up to that open ditch, and then have that open ditch dipped out. So that put that behind.
That's been since the sewers went in. I mean, it's always been a problem. I came up here back then, and nobody did nothing about it.
Yeah, we definitely, I have all the folder work that we tried to get that taken care of last year. Had it all worked out, had.
Because of the property owner? All right.
So there's other ways to go around it, to get it taken care of, because there's definitely a problem there. We're definitely trying to solve it and get that water flowing much nicer. Just a couple of hurdles that show up, so.
Well, that's because her yard's not flooding every time it rains. It's not an issue. Mine is, still.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin, well, yeah, I don't want this to become argumentative, but we have to follow the law.
Mhm.
And we do have at the third Thursday in June, the prosecutor's going to put on a seminar on a different section dealing with stormwater, the 6117, particularly in that chapter of the Ohio Revised Code, that might give us another avenue to get this done. And you'll see when we cover stormwater here in a little bit later in the agenda, I'm going to be talking about the mini grant, which is what we were trying to use to help fund this and getting the planning going forward. But we may have to press this a little further with the prosecutor's office, since you're running into some roadblocks of property owners, you know, not wanting to be willing to allow temporary easements across their property to do this. I do know that the prosecutor and the stormwater district and the county prefer that they get permanent easements so that they can, as exactly what's happened here, they can do ongoing maintenance when there is a problem. Versus the situation we've got in now, new property owners come in, and now you got someone where a previous property owner might have agreed, because somebody agreed to allow that outlet in originally. But if current property owners don't want you on your property, again, there's a process you have to follow to get through that. It can get sticky and long and tied up in the courts. But that'll be the process we'll keep going forward. It's not forgotten. Okay, the jetting out you can do from a distance, but you know, you don't know how effective it is, especially if it's crushed or broken. It's not, you know, you'll clear a mud hole, but it's going to fill back in real fast. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that it was a property owner issue.
Okay. All right, anything else? You know what would help, because I'm going to leave it up to you, if you fill out a formal complaint on that,
Yeah,
because I know the stormwater district likes if we get a document.
All right.
Okay, that'll be very helpful.
I think I filled one out like 10 years ago when the sewers went in.
Okay. If you want it, you can scan that, and you can either email it to Linda or email it to you, Kevin, if you give them an email address. That might be easier to move around, because otherwise I'm scanning it again to send it to the county, you know, where Linda is. Because that might help with Don, and it might, Greg Peltz from, well, actually, they said Greg won't be at the next meeting. He's got another case that's disrupted. He was originally supposed to be the presenter. But I think Dan Petticord from the prosecutor's office and Don Romankak will be presenting. Maybe they'll want to use this as an example, you know, of what you can and can't do.
Yeah, Don's well aware of it. We've talked a couple of times about it. Definitely was going to go through and double check on some evidence.
Okay. Yeah, well, it'll help even better with the prosecutor, because, you know, it's going to end up with legal. All right, anything else? All right. And we'll move on, correspondence and announcements. David?
I have nothing to bring forward at this time.
Okay, Denny?
No, I have nothing. You talking about the reports for the ambulance service?
Not yet. We're just in correspondence and announcement. We'll get everything I have that I haven't covered already is also on an agenda item, so we'll cover it on those agenda items, dealing with fire, zoning, and stormwater. But we'll move on specifically to the ambulance, Denny, and you're aware of this now, that there is a special meeting on Thursday, June 15th at 6 o'clock at the Amherst Fire Department.
Yes, I have that written down.
Sheriff's not here. Let me know when you're ready, David.
Okay.
Ready to go?
Okay, what time is that? 6 o'clock, isn't it?
6 o'clock. I saw that the minutes from the March meeting were emailed to you. It'll be Friday.
Well, that's the one for this month, the one for last month.
I think Chris was going to mail it to you, so that'll be a question for Chris.
Okay,
Okay, I know I signed it.
all right, and David's gone.
Yeah, it's for the sign, so it should be.
When you're ready, David.
Okay, I'm ready to go.
Okay, we're going to move on to the zoning inspector. All right, I've got two items that are in your packet dealing with the zoning. If you recall, at the last meeting, we went over the correspondence from the prosecutor's office in terms of site plan review, variance hearings, and also the real key was a new business. And that's where Sam is proposing that we get more formal in registering new businesses. His concern was that there's considerable cost happening here and the township's not recouping the cost. Now, this is going to be a fundamental question for the trustees. We don't necessarily have to make it this meeting, but be aware you received an email from our township administrator, Linda Ashley, yesterday, May 22nd. On that, Linda provided a proposed form that Georgianne's created after she's been in many discussions with Sam, Linda, and our fire prevention officer, Chris Nyhart. But that'll show the form that's been proposed in draft format. It'll also give you an accounting for what our current costs are. This form actually has several key purposes. First thing is registering new businesses, because as Chris will tell you, these businesses come and go or change over. He gets no notification as to what's happening there. So we really want to get these things registered up front when they're changing over and get all the contact information for the individuals. Typically, we may have, if there was an existing business there, we may have the property owner's information, but if it's a leased property, we don't have the business contact information. Then once we have that, is to make sure that a fire inspection is scheduled. Since some of these businesses, though it might be a same building, there's a changeover in use that is there that is going to require a new fire inspection. Think about it, if you go from something like a daycare to a restaurant, the fire inspection's a little bit different. The other thing is to determine if there's a need for a commercial building inspection, and typically that's where they're actually doing some new construction, even if it's just inside, or rearrangement of walls and electrical and plumbing and whatnot. So then we would have to make sure we notify Tom Horstman and get that scheduled. There's also, we got to make sure the business that's going in there is a permitted use in the zoning district or a conditional use. before they get started, and if not, let them know what process they have to go through to operate if it's not a permitted use in the district that they're in. And the final is just verifying that they've received their occupancy permit, that everything's lined up. But then the real question that's going to come up for the trustees that could be later is, do you or don't you want to use a charge for that operation? You know, you can look at it from the standpoint, well, geez, they're going to pay property taxes. Is that covering it? Realize there's no income tax, but they do pay property tax, or do you consider, hey, this is a changeover, and all we want to do is recover our costs? So take a look at the information that Linda had sent out to you and get back to her with any comments that you have and any changes you want on this form. I did mention, Georgianne, the information I just read out, and the purpose, I want the rear of the form to explain why is somebody filling this out. And if something's not self-evident, also give some direction as to how to complete the form, what do they do with it, that sort of thing. Are there any questions on that?
No, look over the form and...
Okay.
But isn't this a consolidated form? This is both a registration for the, for a fire inspection, but also it's a use permit for the zoning, for zoning, and we're merging the two together, so that it's, you pay one fee for the fire inspection and for the, shall we call it, the occupancy or the permit.
This is just going to be for new in the township to get it when there's new things coming over. Chris will have his software on his iPad that he's going to get all the key information entered in for existing businesses. If you recall, when Chris came on, he's trying to, just work his way down the businesses from the ones that he thinks, from a safety standpoint, was more important to have the fire inspection until he gets them all covered. Then they'll be on an annual basis of inspection anyway. And right now, though there's a cost to us, there's no fee charge for the annual inspection. So this is just new business registration. Okay, and then that information be communicated to Chris, because the expectation is typically they'll come in, not always, but they'll hit the zoning inspector first before Chris will find out. If Chris finds out, it could be just by accident, finds out there's a new business there. And, that happens.
Last year.
Yeah, and that happens. And we understand that. But most people operating a business understand to contact the community that they're doing business in first. And that's going to be Linda or Sam receiving that contact information. Okay?
And David and Denny, it will be online too if somebody is new to the township and they happen to look on the website. There will be a tab under zoning that is strictly for new businesses and commercial. And it'll also link up to Tom Horseman's website. So his information is also on there and his form.
Yeah.
So it's a work in process, but that's where we're headed.
And long term, you have the address for every location for a newsletter, not that they'll read it, but at
Right.
least they've had the opportunity to get a communication.
And it will be a permanent spot in the newsletter too, that it's required for new businesses to register with the township.
I mean, it's no different than zoning. I mean, people
Right.
do things and then they find out later, Next thing you know, a housing addition's going up and it's, oh, I need a permit? Yeah, especially when your neighbor's complaining because you just put it too close to their yard. Let me know when you're ready, David. Chris will be real happy if she can read your writing.
I know, I will be too.
Save her from watching an hour-and-a-half video with a lot of dead time in it.
Okay, it's time to go to the kitchen and get something to eat. You conclude.
We know when you're ready. Typically, it doesn't take this long, but our fiscal officer not being here, she's usually entering it on her laptop. And David, as a courtesy, is trying to do this so she doesn't have to watch the meeting to do the minutes.
Okay, there we go. I don't know, does she have to read it? Line this out and put this over on the other side. There.
You know when you're ready.
I gotta put arrows on this. Okay.
All right, the next item under zoning, and this is an announcement, is, and it's in your packet, there's a document, it's dated May 16th, sent by certified mail. This was May 16th from Kristen Brandon, Lorraine County Planning Commission, that on Tuesday, June 20th at 2:00 p.m. in the Commissioners' Meeting Room A, on the 4th floor of the County Administration Building, that there will be the Lorraine County Subdivision Review Subcommittee will be reviewing the plans for the Sandstone Mill Subdivision Phase 1, which consists of 43 lots and the creation of new streets, 3 new streets in Amherst Township. And this is the one where the zoning commission's already approved the development plan, but theirs was more reviewing it in terms of the compliance with the settlement agreement and the, as much as it can with the, if it's not specific in the settlement agreement, with the planned unit development zoning district in our zoning resolution. But in this particular one, they'll get in more detail with the county engineer reviewing it, and I think they're going to be more looking at the specific infrastructure and support of those 43 lots. In addition to they'll insist on the compliance with the erosion sediment control rules, which they already know they have to comply with. I believe there's a set of plans in Sam's office. I have not looked at those. To my knowledge, there's been no change since the set of plans that was provided to the zoning commission originally. So if you want to attend that meeting, it is on Tuesday, June 20th at 2:00, County Commissioners Meeting Room A.
Are you going to it, Neil?
I'm going to try to. I haven't, since I've just received this, I haven't checked my schedule. That's why it took me a while to get the packets together, because I was running copies of this stuff for everybody. Okay?
Well,
I'm guessing at 2:00 that I
Let me know
can.
if you're going to go to
Okay. Yeah, and the real thing here, since we've already seen it with our zoning, is to hear any comments that come from county personnel.
it. Right.
Okay, let me know when you're ready, David. And Chris, you'll be coming up next. You got anything?
Okay,
Ready?
yeah.
All right, we're gonna call in Fire Prevention Officer. Chris, do you have any report?
As far as your draft sheet goes, I know you guys are considering about charging a fee. The state of Ohio charges $100 for these the occupancy inspections. The city of Amherst charges for new business $75. I mean, I see what Linda has all, prepared on the back. A lot of times, the fee that the city charges the township is an hourly rate. 9 times out of 10, if I'm in the township doing inspections, it's probably going to be a 3 or 4 hour day or 3 or 4 hours of doing businesses in the township. Typically a business, unless it's something huge, a manufacturing plant, does not take an hour for these. So half an hour at the most. And most of the times, if I'm going to be in the township, I will try to do 3 or 4 businesses as well in the township to make up, if we're going to bill for an hour, I'm going to spend at least an hour in the township. And if a new business takes me 15 minutes, I'm probably going to get 3 or 4 more other businesses as well while I'm in the township.
Yeah, so essentially, right now, what Chris is referring to in that section, the fire prevention officer fees, it's contractually, we have it changes year to year on the hourly rate, which is currently $30.99, and then there's $25 fixed fee for the truck by the current contract. We could take that roughly $56 and divide it by 4.
Right.
And so that would reduce this cost a little bit here. Maybe take another $30 off. So right now, as Linda shows, depending upon with the other administrative costs, the cost is between $79 and $81, but you could probably take off another $30 off of that. That's what our actual cost is if you read through everything she's got here. So I appreciate that, Chris. We know we can make that adjustment.
Okay, and yet, was there another part of yours about the site plan review fees too? Was that something else that we need to discuss?
That's something else. That's not on this particular one. And I think where they were more concerned, not so much in fire, and this is usually just if you have a large site plan, is the last one with the architectural review, which we're required to do by statute, was over $1,000. And it's like, whoa, we aren't used to seeing that. But again, it's not typical. We have those large ones. So what the communication with the prosecutor was, we don't want to have a site plan review for all site plans that's up too high, because if someone's coming in with a smaller addition, which we have all the time, you might get something, well, okay, he spent an hour on it, so it's only a couple $100. Well, you don't want to be charging that person $1,000.
Right.
But obviously architects are expensive, and it also took more with the fire prevention officers review. So it was just the communication the prosecutor was, how can we recover this cost? In that case, you want to pre-notify someone, hey, this is our typical cost, but it only covers up to this, anything above this amount. So that's the direction to go, but that hasn't even been handled yet. Right now they were trying to get this for the new business portion and just chip away at it.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I guess on the other hand, with the new businesses, if we say everyone's it's going to take a half an hour to do each one instead of breaking it. And it all depends on the size of the building. So it's up.
It is, but we want to try and keep it simple. Right. We don't have a lot of staff. We want to keep it as simple as we can. Right. That's why I want to even leave it up to the trustees. They got to make a decision.
Right.
To even charge at all, because now you got the thing of the prepaying and someone collecting the fee and getting it to the bank and the whole bit. That's something they'll have to decide later. How do they want to handle this in the process? So this is just getting it started.
Right. So, we have the same thing in the city, and 9 times out of 10, you go to a business that, and we have our database shows every business that we have. You walk up to the building, here's the address, you look at the business name, and it doesn't match the one on the building. So now you have to go in and tell the people, you have to, you're required to fill out the paperwork at the city, pay the fee, fill out your paperwork, and then they'll get a hold of us and the building official, and we'll both walk through and reissue your certificate of occupancy under the new name. And depending on what if you've changed use groups, Now we have to change your occupant load. So I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. So, I mean, maybe the fee schedule should be flexible, just depending on how big, how involved it's gonna be, and what the building's gonna be, so. So, I mean,
We'll get through it.
it's a guessing game as to what it's gonna be, so.
Yeah.
As far as the business, so, and that happens in the township a lot too. You know, you pull up and one day it's this business, you go back next month and it's something completely different. So, but it's not just here, it's everywhere, it's in the city as well, so.
I appreciate that. Well, we'll get there. I know our zoning inspector would like us to move faster, but you start asking them questions and you
Right.
realize there's more to it than just, well, just go ahead and do this. Wait a minute. And who's doing it? And what are the steps? And how do you notify them? And so that's what we're trying to get this all worked out.
Okay.
And again, then this board has to decide, you know, what do you want to do? Because as soon as you start adding this, there's an additional burden, additional complexity, and with a minimal staff, think about when we change over staff, what happened. You know, we have a switch in a zoning inspector where you have one person who's been here for many years, you get a new person, that learning curve takes a while, and yet people aren't waiting, they're moving on.
Oh, yeah.
They want to know an answer, and let me look it up type thing.
Mm-hmm. No, I
Okay?
understand.
There's no second person that, you know, can transition over. You lose a one-person operation, you lost all that knowledge and experience. Okay, any questions for Chris?
No.
All right, we're going to move on to roads, parks, and cemeteries. Superintendent Smarsh?
We just been into mowing and trimming of the cemeteries and park, ditch cleaning, roadside mowing and trimming.
Roadside mowing. Okay.
And all regular maintenance.
I know it's not much, Kevin, you're still going to have, you know, all the parks and cemeteries and other roads, but eventually a good portion of Overland Road, that burden will be taken off of you. I don't know if the new homeowners are going to want the ditch enclosed or leave it open. I mean, that's up to them. And I'm sure they'll get a hold of you when they get to that point.
We don't have all that much to mow anymore. And what we do have is a bit hodgepodge.
Still takes time to get down there.
Yeah, still got the same transit time.
Any other questions for Kevin? All right,
No,
Kevin.
I have none.
Kevin, there is one I just wanted to discuss with you. It's, you haven't heard anything on the bid for the chip and seal, have you?
No, I have not.
Okay, I was surprised to read, I don't recall if it was today or yesterday, there were actually 2 articles in the Chronicle that dealt with workshop players right here in Amherst Township. The one, which was on the front page, was they had some sort of fundraiser and dinner over at German's Villa. They're trying to raise $25,000 to take care of some of their needs because they were shut down through all of COVID. I realize they use their revenue to pay their bills, and they've got $800 to $900 a month just in utilities. When you have no revenue coming in, you have nothing but expense. I'm surprised they never contacted the county commissioners about the ARPA funds. And I don't know if that's done now. But they did mention one of their biggest plans is to get their parking lot resurfaced. I think they exaggerated that there's holes that a car can fall in, but you know, it's torn up. I'm not sure what that property is actually owned by Amherst Exempted Village Schools. And if you have no objection, I was going to call Bob Cliver first to see, since that's a publicly owned entity, and we didn't even, we were just looking at our roads, is can they be included in the bid? And if he feels they can, I wanted to contact Workshop Players, say, hey, this is another option, maybe much lower cost than you guys just going out and getting your own private contractor. But I wasn't sure, because I'm not knowledgeable enough, when you guys do that pre-leveling, where are you actually having a contractor come in to do that ahead of time?
Yes.
And see, that's not part of the bid because you're taking care of that. We'll have to talk with them, but I just want you to be aware of that. I didn't want to do that without you knowing, just to let them just put them in contact with the engineer's office if the engineer's office says yes. Because you know how it is, once that contractor comes into our area to do our roads, they try to do it by area to reduce their mobilization costs as they move through. So they might get a better price that way. So it's okay. And if they aren't going to actually resurface it, at least chip and seal at the bare minimum. If they just want to fill it with cinders, I don't know if the millings that we get, we've got 2 projects here, and it also depends upon their timing. The one is a joint project with Amherst, but they're leading it. That's on Middle Ridge, which will happen this year. I'm not sure if the contractor's taking those millings or what their plan is. But there's been times we've had bring the millings to us to use. So it's potential there, or with assuming we get the Overland Road project funded, which we wouldn't actually do the construction until 2024, that'd be a nice, easy drop-off point for some of those millings if they're just talking about having a fill in the area, not actually put down the liquid binders in there.
Overland Road will be done this year.
Okay, well then that would give it to them sooner.
Yeah, which they were thinking about filling some of their holes with it and then going over the top with a chip and seal. We don't even know who the contractor is for them.
Right, we don't. Well, that's the first thing, is finding out from the engineer's office if they're even eligible, and the eligibility would be it's a public entity because the Amherst schools own the property.
Sure.
Okay, but it's Workshop Players that leases that is taking care of the resurfacing and the utility cost. Okay, and any of the upgrades of the building. So it's just a thought, seeing that in there. But the second item, I don't know if the trustees are aware, is Big Brothers Big Sisters is actually going to have one of their summer camps there at Workshop Players. So just be aware of that too. Okay. But I just didn't want you to be surprised because, a lot of that contact will then be coming back to you or, questions about it.
If the county's good with it, then I could give them contacts, or if they want a base repair. That's what they want.
Okay, yeah, and that'd probably be best because the first thing is county, are they eligible? Next thing is then contact Workshop Players. But they do, okay, it's up to you guys. Decide if you want to do it. And they may say, hey, we have no money right now, and which could be the case. Okay. Okay, I've got, as far as Lorco, I really don't have any update beyond what we reported in the past, so we're going to move on to the stormwater. You see, Georgianne already has a chart up here on display of the stormwater community grants. This was at the May 18th meeting of the Lorraine County Stormwater District. And if you recall, at the last meeting, I reported that the Stormwater District had extended the deadline for submission of grants, which for me was concerning because when you set rules for a game, you don't change the rules as the game's being played. But ultimately, even though the Stormwater District extended the grant application timeline, there were no additional grants turned in. So there were 5 community grant requests turned in, Amherst Township being one of them. All 5 were approved. I guess I can understand why they extended the deadline, because I did not have visibility at that time of the scope of these projects. But in terms of dollars of the 5 submitted projects in grant funds that were requested were $285,220. Figure that, add on another 20% because the communities themselves are expected to contribute a portion of those funds. Now, you do see there is one from Grafton Township where the township's not contributing anything, and that's fine. I assume when they put that in, there was no guarantee they were going to get funded. I imagine had other townships in the Stormwater District submitted funds, they might have been down at the bottom and not gotten funded, since, as we're aware, there are those additional points in the scoring depending upon the amount of matching funds that the community provides. So in our case, or what's going to happen then, there was over $440,000 allocated by the Stormwater District. So what the County Stormwater District has decided to do is take that additional $155,000 that was allocated and carry it forward in the next program year for 2024, which will be nicer that those additional funds will be available. For Amherst Township, you'll see project number 4. That's our 2023 Bat House ditch restoration, and that's because the application was due here in 2023 at the end of March. The counties they changed the name. They reference it as the Phase 2 Bat House Main Ditch Log Jams. That was recommended for funding. This funding still has to be approved by Lorraine County Board of Commissioners, but as long as the Stormwater District's been in existence, any projects that have been recommended by the Stormwater Advisory Committee have been approved by the county commissioners. For the Amherst Township project, that project is estimated at $100,000. And we've typically not gone over that because with our match being $20,000 coming out of our general fund, that's about as high as we're willing to go in these projects. But this project would involve the removal of log jams and obstructions. And Georgianne, can you actually show the graphic overhead here? Okay, and if you point going from the Lakeshore Railway to John Krieg's property on Stang Road, so all the way over to the 2,000 foot there to the right, the far east, yes. So the project would start there right at the Lakeshore Railway, then the Bat House ditch flows down. Most of you know where John Krieg's property is, since Elaine, who's since passed away, but Elaine was the chair of our zoning commission for many years. So when we submitted this project, we put it in for that 2,000 foot, but we had asked that the potential of extending this, since we couldn't walk through all of this area, that if we could extend it all the way down to the Ohio Turnpike. So you can see the red area there, which is in the flood zone. If this is cleared enough, we'd like to continue down through that. So some of that's going to depend upon the bids coming in and how the bid specification is going to be written to see if that can be continued. The expectation being, if the contractor's already there, let's continue through this area, get the log jams and snags out of the way, and take out any of the dead trees that are in the area. So that's the project that we're looking at for approval, which the soonest that could occur is in 2024. But if you look going to the east, Georgianne, the other blue highlighted area, this is the project that we've already submitted for log jam removal, and that's the one, David, we discussed at the last meeting. There's also some beaver dams in there, and the beaver have to be removed also. And there are some dead ash trees that need to be taken down. I do know one of the property owners in there has been cutting down what he could, at least the ones that the beaver haven't taken down themselves, but he's trying to take down just the dead trees that are there, which tended to be the ash trees, before they fall in and create more blockage in there, since he's having a lot of flooding. And he was at our last meeting wanting to know the status. Would have been nicer had he come to this meeting, because we had told him that we're still awaiting on easements. I did check with Donner Mancac. There are still 2 more easements that are required on that, that they want to have in hand before we go out for bid on this. But you can see this will really help keep that water flowing if we can get those out. We had asked that he email the video that he took of the flooding that he had this year, which is the first time it's crested the area that he had actually filled in to build up the bank to keep it from flooding his yard. The file was too large to email, so he had texted it to me, and I had texted it over to the Stormwater District Manager, Don Romancac. So he does have that video of that flooding. If you go back to the chart, Georgianne. Okay, there were, of the mini grants, there were 3 mini grants submitted. If you recall, Amherst Township submitted 2. Kevin had one that was a project of $10,220, which involved $7,500 in grant funds and $2,720 in township matching funds. And that project will include the replacement of 50 feet of 15-inch diameter and 30 feet of 12-inch diameter storm main at the intersection of Rosedale and Oak Knoll Drive by Sandstone Excavating. And that area Kevin's been working on. I mean, you've had other tile replaced along Rosedale. I always remember the most interesting one was that gentleman that had the front yard that looked like a waterbed, the way it went all under his sod. But this is going to help in that particular area, so that was approved. The second one is a project total of $9,440, again $7,500 in grant, which is the maximum grant you can receive, and $1,940 in township match. This project includes the replacement of 3 brick and mortar catch basins in Hidden Valley subdivision with precast concrete catch basins. Again, this is Sandstone Excavating. The catch basins are at 7182 Deer Run, 6709 Hidden Valley Drive, and then also at the intersection of Hidden Glen and Quail Hollow. And this is where, you know, Kevin has been replacing these, which is nice on those brick and mortar. Not that he doesn't brick and mortar some if he does it in-house, but by getting these replaced with the precast, they're going to last a lot longer. They're not going to degrade. When they degrade, as we're aware, you get either the erosion coming from the property owner's side and then their lawnmowers are falling into the hole, or it actually erodes the subsurface under the street. We've actually had that happen. So we've gotten both of those projects approved. The Stormwater District did indicate there's funds available for one more project. They made it clear it will not be Amherst Township. So we know that. But so Kevin, you're aware, because it was a mini grant you were hoping to use for this tile replacement there from Broadway outfalling to 58. Don stressed heavily both at the Stormwater District meeting and also at the Lorraine County Township Association meeting, get your planning in now, both the community grants and mini grants. Did give a shout out to Amherst Township. They're always the first one in on the mini grant, which is the easier one to do. But we've really got to start looking at the next phase of these. So the mini grant, if we're going to, you know, obviously we want to get that one Broadway Taylor, but we don't want to miss out on funding if that's going to be an issue with getting easements. So I would suggest we do the same thing with the 2 grants. Let's try and give that the priority if we can get that easement issue corrected. And we'll have to work with the prosecutor on that. And the Stormwater District Director is, hey guys, we need help here. This isn't something we can do on our own. But those would probably be our two projects you'd have to pick. Again, the catch basin's the easiest if there's not something else that comes up that we have the authority to do. Okay? The projects I want to talk with you as far as continuing on the Batten House, you know, we'll have to maybe get Linda to give the list of the property owners and who we know to actually walk it, or if the county will work with the drone and flying through there. But typically with that, you want to do when there's not all this foliage in the way. Okay? So I guess the main point is that for the 2024, they want us to plan now, and anything requiring the estimates to get the engineer on it right away, so that they have time to put together a cost estimate and bid specs for us. But we are very fortunate we got the community grant approved and 2 mini grants approved. Any questions in on stormwater?
No.
Okay, as far as the complaints, the only open one, and this one, Denny, I'm going to leave to you, and I know we kept this on here and assigned to you only because you dealt with this in the past, and I don't recall the detail, but I think this was one where we just couldn't see where it could cost effectively provide public water at a property at 7570 Dewey Road. That's under complaints item 8M there on page 3 of 4. So, you know, that's something, again, if you can just recall what it is that this individual was doing is referencing the train derailment that happened in East Palestine and saying, hey, I live by the tracks, this could happen, and then it would follow my on-lot water source, which would be the case. He'd have to work out some other way of getting water to that property, but they do not have public water at that particular location. I think the water line in that area was the Amherst water line when you would check.
Yes. It's Amherst Road.
Yeah, but you might even find in your records, I know this came up several years ago, and you just couldn't see how they could effectively do it. And when the cost was presented to the property owner, I think they were expecting the township to pay it, which isn't the way things work.
Right.
Okay. Right. All right, I'm going to move through on other regular standing items, and I'm going to go right to the solid waste. David?
I have nothing to bring forward at this time for our solid waste.
Okay. I do have 2 items, and the one's in your packet. David, I'm going to look to you since you have solid waste to push on this. You saw the email from Megan Moore, the legal representative for the Waste Hauling Recycling Consortium. She inquired if the 2 manufactured home communities in Amherst Township, being Westwood Estates and Amherst Trail, should be included in the bid. I let her know that we did not include those, and we had in the past. It's been some times. I know Amherst Trails has even changed over in ownership, but when we had contacted the manufactured home communities in the past, they wanted to have their own agreement and select their waste hauling provider. I wasn't sure if they'd want to change. I had made phone calls, and I listed the phone numbers there because on one it took a while to even find that. I know Georgianne does have an email for at least one of them, if not both of them. But when I called, it was after business hours, had to leave a message. Well, I wasn't going to leave a long message on this. So Megan did indicate she would talk with David Blevins to see if he might contact them. But I'm going to ask you to, work with David Blevins or the managers of these communities to see if they're interested. I don't know how many
Can
of
they
these...
be included in it? That's my question. The reason they weren't included in the first place was because they are considered like a business, considered like, they're outside the single family residences. And this bid is for single family residences. Now, they're more than welcome to be part if they can be part. they're more than welcome to take advantage of a price that we can negotiate through a competitive bid. But, can they be part of the bid itself? I don't know.
Well, I'm going to leave that up to you. As far as I'm concerned, they're single family. There's no multifamily manufactured homes there. They're all single
But the
family.
property is one.
The person to talk with is our legal advisor, which is Megan Moore, and she's the one that made the initial inquiry. So, I could make a guess as to what her answer would be, but that's to ask her. But if this helps both the people living at the park and the management, in addition, it would help Amherst Township, because if you add 600 additional customers, that's going to improve your bid. We don't know who the provider will be. Currently, our provider is Rumpke, but again, until we receive bids, we don't know who the provider will be. So what I'm asking is for you to make the contact. Also, since Megan indicated she might pass this on to David Blevins, is to take care of it. I only made the quick call then because she had an email and needed a response, and when I understand what you've told me in the past, you're not reading your email on a regular basis. So I wanted to get an answer back to her. Okay, and you received copies of all these emails. So if we can push this along, because those bids are being prepared. I presented the schedule at the last meeting. And then there was also, David, I didn't read it, it came out today, Megan Moore, I guess it must have been at the last consortium meeting, some discussion on changes in the bylaws. And so she sent an email out today, so you might want to look at that with a red line copy of the existing bylaws and proposed changes. And I don't recall the deadline she put in there, but it is in June. She needs a response back one way or the other. The only other item I have, and this is just an update, the goal is still that the railroad quiet zone to be in effect on May 30th, but until we receive the official notice, that's just the target date. But that's the last communication from the railroad. We'll wait. The contact will be City of Amherst Mayor Costello, and then he'll let us know. Main thing for us, Kevin, is at that point, once the railroad notifies us through the City of Amherst, is uncover the signs as far as letting the motoring public know there's no more horns being sounded, as they come across those railroad tracks. I don't know if people pay attention to that now or not, so. I haven't seen as many racing across in the times I've watched since the linears are on, because they go slower, whereas before didn't matter, those gates were coming down, they're scooting across. But they're serving their purpose. It makes it tougher to go around the guards coming down. Okay, is there any other business?
No, sir.
All right, our next regular meeting will be on Tuesday, June 13th at 7 o'clock. Any need for a work session, Kevin? Okay, any other audience concerns? Any need for an executive session?
No.
Seeing none, then I'm going to make a motion to adjourn at 8:20 p.m.
Second. Roll call. Lynch?
Yes.
Urick, yes. Abraham?
Yes.
Okay.